meeting, while the CEO and I are located in the council chamber and the Civic Centre, the remainder of your councillors are coming to you live from their homes and other places of work. The meeting is being held remotely because of some restrictions are still in place. Council is still under advice from the state government and the Chief Health Officer to conduct council meetings online. We will try to mimic our normal live webcast as much as possible, but because of this is a remote meeting, there may be a few technical issues experienced. I ask that you be patient with us. If for some reason the webcast drops out, remember that the meeting will be placed on our website afterwards so you can watch it at your leisure. And that note, let's get started. Thank you. Mr. Benny, is there any apologies, please?
A single apology this evening, Madam Mayor, from Councillor Lloyd Trong.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, their spirits and ancestors, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Item number 1.3, offering of prayer. As part of Council's commitment to recognise the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer this evening was provided by Mr. Shema Nebi from the Spiritual Assembly of Baha as a member of the Dandenong Faith Interfaith Network and will be read by Councillor Deputy Mayor Sophie Tan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the prayer tonight is provided by Mr. Shanmin Navidi. My God, my adored one, my King, my desire. What tongue can voice my thanks to thee? I was heedless, thou didst awaken me. I had turned back from thee, thou didst graciously at me to turn towards thee. I was one as one dead, thou didst quicken me with the waters of life. I was withered, thou didst revive me with the heavenly stream to thine utterance which hath flowed forth from the pen of all thee, all merciful. All divine providence, all existence is begotten by thy bounty, deprived it not of the waters of thy generosity, neither do thou withhold from the ocean of thy mercy. I beseech thee to aid and assist me all the times and under all conditions, and seek from the heaven of thy grace thine ancient favour. Thou art in truth the Lord of bounty and the sovereign of the kingdom of eternity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 1.4, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. Meeting of Council held on the 24th of May 2021. Moved by
Councillor Duck.
Councillor Duck, seconded by Councillor Lim.
Moso.
Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 1.5, disclosures of interest. Mr. Benny?
Yes, Mayor and councillors, there's a single disclosure this evening. It's from Councillor's Director of Corporate Services, Mr. Mick Jench. It relates to item 4.3.3, South East Leisure Proprietary Limited. The type of interest is a direct material conflict of interest of a pecuniary nature. The nature of the interest is that Council this evening in that item is considering or noting the appointment of Mr. Jench to the Board of South East Leisure. Mr. Jench will be required to leave the chamber, even though he won't have any part in any debate under normal circumstances, but for appropriate reasons he will leave the chamber, that is, leave the online forum for that particular item. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Benny. Item number 2, Officers' Report Part 1, 2.1, Documents for Sealing. Moved by...
Happy to move it, Mayor. by Councillor Tan.
Councillor Tan and seconded by Councillor Lim. Is there any question, Councillor? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.2, documents for tabling. Moved by, you've got to say, Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor
O'Reilly.
O'Reilly, sorry. Thank you. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.2.2, petitions and joint letters. Moved by
Councillor Tan.
Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Milkovich. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? If there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.3, statutory planning application. 2.3.1, town planning application number 185-211, Keys Road, Keysborough. Planning application number PLN 20/0578. Moved by
Councillor O'Reilly.
Councillor O'Reilly, seconded by, just say your name, Councillor.
Councillor Foster, second that.
Councillor Foster, thank you. Is there any questions, councillors?
Madam Mayor, I have two questions.
Yes, Councillor Garrard. Your questions are?
Madam Mayor, on page 42, under notes, the report states that the above property is subject to uncontrolled overland flow through the property. And we, we know this area has a long history of major flooding events. Will approval of this application breach councillor duty of care?
Mr. Thorley, please. Is it Thorley? Mr.
Thank you, Madam
Thorley.
Mayor. Through you, the application was referred to the relevant agencies, and in particular, Melbourne Water are the authority that looks after flood mapping for this area of Keysborough, and they had no concerns in relation to the dwelling being sited on the property.
Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor.
Madam Mayor, I have a second question.
Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Madam Mayor, the EPA 1518 applies to this property and recommends a minimum separation distance from the eastern treatment plant to the nearest sensitive use area, varying from about 6 to 13 kilometres, depending on the pondage. Since the application property fails to meet either of these separation distances designated to protect health and safety, as a default minimum, will approval of this application breach these guidelines?
Mr. Thorley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, this application was referred to the EPA and Melbourne Water.
Sorry. Jamie? Jamie, sorry, we've lost your voice. Jamie, can you hear me?
And he won't be able to hear you.
All right.
I'll send a message.
If you could just want to let the public know that the slight difficulty will be back in 2 minutes.
We're having a slight difficulty at the moment, so we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Sorry about this. Poor Jamie has to repeat the whole lot again. Right, are you good to go again, Jamie? We dropped out for a little while. Sorry about that.
Most of it, I think.
Can you start it up again, please? Sorry, and answer Councillor Garrard's question.
They can't hear Angela. They can't. They're all saying. No, they can't hear us. And
They-
is your speaker on?
Yes.
Yep, it is.
Can you hear me? Jamie, can you hear me?
No, you can't hear me.
No,
Just be patient, we'll get there.
not a problem.
I've sent him all a message,
Yep.
so can't read the message.
Technical difficulties.
We can all log out of the meeting and log back. No? Okay, Ange.
Right. Anyone can hear me?
Select a different camera.
Yeah, you click the drop-down box.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, right. Sorry about this, Jamie. Sorry, Mr. Thorley, but you're going to have to repeat exactly what you said before. No, we couldn't hear you. And the public
In
couldn't hear you.
response to the second question,
Yes, please.
Councillor Garrard, Madam Mayor.
Yes, please.
Yep. So I guess what I said was the application was referred to the EPA and Melbourne Water, who are both the applicable agencies in relation to this setback, and the EPA publication 1518. We also sought legal advice from council's lawyers in relation to this policy, and neither authority, the EPA or Melbourne Water, had raised any objections in relation to the buffer distance and the EPA publication 1518. Furthermore, the development itself sits 2.5 kilometres away from the Eastern Treatment Plant, which is 850 metres outside the planning scheme buffer area for the treatment plant.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, please, councillors, on this issue? Yes, Councillor
I
Tan.
believe so.
Did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is just regarding to the heights of this building. So the maximum height is only proposed for 8 metres, but for this application, proposed for 9.28 metres. So is that going to affect in the future with planning?
Mr. Thorley, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Tan, the height was considered within the assessment, and being a double-storey building, the guideline or the considered referred or preferred height limit is 8 metres. Considering the dwelling is located on a 6 hectare or 60,000 square metre property with sufficient setbacks from all property boundaries, as well as significant landscaping in terms of large native trees over 4.5 metres in height to be placed across the site. Officers considered that the variance in that height limit was applicable and was a good outcome in this circumstances due to the high architectural design and outcomes for this dwelling.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? You are opposing, Councillor Garrard? All right, moved by
Councillor O'Reilly.
Councillor O'Reilly. You've got 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't believe I'll take that long because all the detail is in the report. The officers have gone over the application and checked where this application fits in to the Greater Dandenong planning scheme. I'm note of the objectors' concerns have been responded to in the report. As councillors, we've also received emails from objectors, and I've read those and digested those. But what we're seeing is that the application is valid and does meet all the things that it needs to meet in order for this council to approve it. Some of the things that have been brought up, such as Melbourne Water, Melbourne Water has had the opportunity to respond. There was no objections. It was brought up about EPA guidelines, and I'm stressing that they are guidelines. The EPA had an opportunity to raise concerns, and the EPA had no objections as well. So, in summary, the officers who have gone across all the technical detail on this application consider the proposal to be highly compliant with all the relevant provisions. The proposal does not include any removal of vegetation to the site. All native trees are proposed to be retained. And notable for myself, Mayor, is that the development of less than 1% of the land. So it's not even 1%, it's 0.8% of the land for the purposes of a dwelling is characteristic of both the adjoining areas and compatible with the existing surrounding land uses. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Foster as seconder, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor O'Reilly covered it all. I second everything that he's just mentioned. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Garrard in opposition. Unmute yourself, please, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I oppose this application on health and safety grounds. The 1518 guidelines are there for a very good reason, for the health and safety and welfare of the residents in that area. I think this application opposes an unacceptable risk of flooding and unacceptable risk to health and safety in the proximity to Melbourne Water Treatment Plant. And for these reasons, I oppose this application.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers for or against? Please raise your hand. No. You're right to reply, Councillor.
Mayor,
sorry.
I have my hand up.
I didn't see your hand, sorry. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to speak to this planning application. I think it's probably actually, if you look at the plans, probably one of the best dwellings I've ever seen to be built in this municipality. It's one dwelling on 6 hectares, being 60,000 square metres, in an area which is further enough away from the waste treatment facility to justify why it should be built there. And then in addition as well, I note that the objectors who are registered, none of them live anywhere near where this planning application is. They are well and truly out of the area. And that's what's documented on page number 59. So I think that this is an application which comes up. It's an application for a person's home for them to live in. It's, as I said before, a very nice looking dwelling, an indoor pool and everything I can see here. But I think it shows that at least with these people having one dwelling, they're complying with as much of the legislation and the rules they have as possible. And I think this is a very, very good one to have within the municipality. And that's why I think it's something that we should support.
Right, is there any other councillors speaking for or against this proposal? Richard, sorry, thanks Richard. Please unmute yourself.
Mayor, to me, I agree with the council officer, because if the application was to be appealed to the VCAT, it is the officer view that it is highly likely that VCAT would be issue a planning permit for this proposal anyway. Why we have to, oppose this sort of planning permit? Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Milkovich, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to express my support for this particular application. I think this is a sensible application, occupying less than 1% of the total block. And these are not people, obviously, that are looking to subdivide and build multi-unit development, townhouses or whatever. It is a family home. It is a large block of land. I don't think there's any reason why we should not let them enjoy their lifestyle, which obviously they've chosen to build their family home there. So I'm definitely in support of this application. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors? No. Your right to reply, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. So the only or the main objections I've heard is in regards to flooding and proximity to the water treatment plant, which have been covered off. You would expect the applicant would be well aware of these sorts of issues, and they're happy to apply for this application. Melbourne Water and EPA with no objections. I don't need to say any more. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And considering we're online, I'm going to call out councillors' names and you say yes, you agree, or no, you don't agree with the officer's recommendation. Councillor Dark? Sorry.
4.
4, thank you. Councillor Formoso?
In favour of the recommendations, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster?
In favour, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Gerard?
I do not support.
Councillor Lim?
Oppose.
Councillor Lim?
In favour, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Mamedi?
In favour, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Milkovich?
In favour, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor O'Reilly?
In favour.
Councillor Tan?
In favour, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Long in favour. It's passed. Thank you. Item number 3, question time public. Mr. Benny, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. There are some 23 questions tonight, so this may take us a little while to get through this, but please bear with us as we work our way through. The first thing I'd like to do is acknowledge the first 5 questioners who had specifically requested that they verbally present their question at a meeting, but given that we are in the circumstances that we are, that is not possible, including using the technology that we have in place tonight. It's not possible to both webcast and Teams, any of those sorts of things, so regrettably we can't deal with those. But each of those 5 questioners have been contacted and they are agreeable to their questions being read on this occasion. So the first of those is Sylvia Mastrogiovanni. During the community workshops, a number of very small sites of approximately 2,000 square metres were put to those attending as possible sites for the Dandenong Community Hub. Given that by the year 2030, Council's own projections of the population of Dandenong will be 52,000 people, why isn't the site nearby almost completely owned by Council, namely the site bordered by Stewart Street, King Street, Sleath Avenue and Clough Street, being considered? At approximately 17,750 square metres, it is comparable in size to the site of the Keysborough South Community Hub, which is approximately 14,500 square metres. It must be noted that by Council's own projections, the population of Dandenong will be 52,000 by 2030, whereas the population of Keysborough South will still be around 12,000, that is less than a quarter of the size of Dandenong. So a site bigger than the Keysborough South Community Hub, than the Keysborough South Community Hub site, is needed to provide the space needed for a single-storey hub with sufficient outdoor space. Mr. Fiddler could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Sylvia, for the question. Council has recently completed the first stage of the Dandenong Hub consultation and engagement, seeking community views on services for inclusion in the hub and 4 possible locations along the Stewart Street in Dandenong. Engagement participants were also able to provide views on alternative location proposals. A precise building footprint and preferred site have not yet been finalised and will be informed by a site analysis currently underway and also in discussion with Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
The second question is from Sue Stania of Keysborough. Nobody is clearing the litter on Dandenong bypass between Springvale Road and Eastlink. There is so much rubbish along the side of the road, nobody is doing anything about it. On top of that, Eastlink roadside is a disgrace. It is like a rubbish tip. Eastlink is not doing their due diligence and clearing the rubbish. You can see it piling up amongst the shrubbery, especially on the turn-offs and especially leading into Monash Freeway. Mr Kearsley could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Sue Stain for the question. With regards to rubbish and waste along Dandenong Bypass, we have recently faced this issue for some time, and we have made it very clear to the Department of Transport that it is a particular issue that they need to deal with and deal with quickly. We are intending to raise this again with the regional manager for the Department of Transport, and if needs be, also make arrangements to inform the local MP as well. With regards to Eastlink, that is not a matter for Council or the Department of Transport to deal with. That is a privately owned road. I would recommend that any complaints with regards to Eastlink be forwarded directly onto them. However, we will in this instance also request that they clean up the roadside issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Mr Benny, please.
The next question is from Tina Congews of Dandenong. Apologies for any mispronunciation. When will the consultation report, including verbatim responses from the May Dandenong Community Hub consultation, be available on the website? Last year's report on the Keysborough South Community Hub had verbatim responses and was publicly available. Mr Fiddler, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Tina, for the question. Results from Council's recent round of consultation and engagement on services for inclusion in the Dandenong Hub will be incorporated into a draft business case and will be summarised in the next phase of public engagement concerning the draft concept plan, and this will then be put up on the website. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
Next question is also from Tina Congews of Dandenong. What are the next steps in the Dandenong Community Hub business case and concept design process? In particular, on what date will the high-level concept designs and site options be out for public consultation? Mr Fiddler.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Tina, again for the question. Council's consultants will now begin the process of developing a concept plan, conducting a site analysis and drafting of the business case. Currently, the concept plan is due to be presented for public consultation for 4 weeks commencing in July this year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
The next question is from Leah Anderson of Dandenong. When will the new Greater Dandenong Children's Plan and associated first-year action plan be presented to a council meeting for adoption? Mr Fiddler, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report will be presented to Council in August for endorsement, so it will be in August. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
That concludes all of the questions who asked to express their own questions, and we'll now move on to those that are happy for them to be read. The first is from Mark Dalton of Springvale South. With the Springvale Business District about to receive a sprucing up, would it be possible to include signage on or near the historic Burdens building telling the story of this early pioneer and shopkeeper? Mr Kearsley, Madam Mayor.
Mr Kearsley, please.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for your question regarding the opportunity to include signage on or near the historic Burdens building. As a site of significance and registered in the City of Greater Dandenong Heritage Study in 2003, Burdens buildings are significant to Springvale because they are some of the oldest shops in the Springvale retailing area, providing a landmark in the development of the strip, and of their association with George Burden, a local identity in Springvale storekeeper and owner. The Council's Springvale Activity Centre Placemaking Interpretive Signage Program is well placed to develop a sign to publicly share the story of this important site. A council officer from the Placemaking and Revitalising Business Unit will be in contact with you to discuss this opportunity in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Mr Benny, please.
Next question is also from Mark Dalton of Springvale South. Can I be advised of the whereabouts of the historical road grader and Furphy water wagon that was passed on from the previous Springvale City Council, and where and if they will be displayed? They used to reside next to my work shed behind the Springvale Town Hall many years ago. Mr Keasley, Madam Mayor.
Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you again to Mr Dalton. We have done some extensive research and looking through some historical matters in the last 10 or so years with regards to both items, and I wish to advise that the City of Greater Dandenong are no longer in possession of both pieces of plant that you have inquired about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Mr Benny, please.
The next question is from Brian Hunter of Keysborough. Once community garden policy is brought to Council on the 17th of July, is there any further steps or consultations before it is ready to go? And will MCG be on the Chandler Reserve by September 2021, MCG being, as I understand it, the Maralinga Community Garden? Mr Thorley can respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Thorley, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your question, Brian. In response to your question, the Community Gardens policy is due to be further discussed internally later in June, which will seek to finalise any future steps required for the adoption of this policy. In terms of the 19th of July discussion with councillors, this will be a briefing only, and subsequent to this, the policy will need to be formally adopted at a future council meeting. However, separate to the policy, officers are working to assist the establishment of the Maralinga Community Garden, and as you will be well aware, are currently assessing the planning application for this. Officers anticipate being able to get in touch with the group in the next 2 weeks to further discuss this specific proposal and how we can ensure the process of establishing the garden can be finalised as quickly as possible. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Thorley. Mr Benny, please.
Another question from Brian Hunter of Keysborough. Can we, the members of the Maralinga Community Garden Incorporated, have definitive timelines in regards to the community garden construction, as the $6,500 South East Water Grant that we were successful in obtaining will expire in November 2021? Mr Thorley, Madam Mayor.
Mr Thorley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, Brian, just further to the previous question, council officers will be in touch with the group within the next 2 weeks to discuss further the proposal to ensure it can be finalised as quickly as possible. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Thorley. Mr Benny, please.
The next question is also from Brian Hunter. It's the third question from Mr Hunter. From the email I received from Council's Acting Service Unit Leader, Parks Infrastructure Service and Planning, in regards to possible native garden plantings at Chandler Reserve on Thursday the 10th of June, which stated, the outcome of the Community Gardens policy and subsequent determination of the Maralinga Community Garden will trigger a review of the future use of the reserve. This will include further work to develop an overall reserve concept plan, which will give consideration to garden beds, planting and other landscaping features. How long after the Community Garden policy is approved will a review of the future use of Chandler Reserve be set in motion? Mr Keasley could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Keasley, please.
With regards to Mr Bryan's question, they are fairly similar to 5 and 6. However, we understand his point with this one, meaning what will happen with the other parts of the reserve once the establishment of the community garden has taken place. So what we'd be aiming to do is essentially, once the policy has been determined and a planning application issued, that planning application will determine the nature, size and location of garden beds within the community garden. We will then prepare a response to that with regards to how the rest of the park or garden area should be used, and that will follow as quickly as possible from the finalisation of the planning permit, but it may well be undertaken once the establishment of the fencing and garden beds associated with the community garden have actually taken place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. What is the status of the next stage of revitalising Central Dandenong, led by Capital Alliance? Have council as yet been briefed by Development Victoria and Capital Alliance? And what are the currently expected timeframes for the community consultation? Mr. Keasley, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Keasley, please.
I'd like to thank Mr. Kerwin for the question. Unfortunately, we had arranged for an initial meeting with the Mayor and the Ward Councillor, Councillor Mametti, a few weeks ago, and unfortunately that was one of many meetings that was COVIDized, if I could say that, was the restrictions were in place and we couldn't have that particular function. So we are aiming to reschedule that, and following on from that will be a more formal presentation by Development Victoria and Capital with regards to their proposal. We're not quite sure yet of the nature and timing of the community consultation because that is undertaken directly by Development Victoria and Capital. But as soon as we are in a position to identify those dates and methods, we will certainly inform both council and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is from Pam Naylor of Noble Park. Councils across Melbourne are steadily trying to arrest the decline in canopy cover across their municipalities in response to climate change and declining biodiversity. At what council meeting are council proposing to make a decision on the proposal for a local law regulating the removal of large canopy trees on private land? Mr. Thorley, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Thorley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Naylor, for your question. It's a great question. Council is currently progressing its general local law, and matters the questioner yourself refers to are not part of the general local law at this stage. It has not been determined if, and therefore when, the matter will be addressed. However, Council's guidance will be sought on those matters. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is from Lisa Hartzenberg of Dandenong. I and many other Dandenong residents want a single-storey, spacious community hub with outdoor areas like other greater Dandenong suburbs. This would be delivered by the site bordered by Clough Street, Sleath Avenue, King Street and Stewart Street, a site already almost completely owned by council, perfectly placed between the Dandenong Plaza and Dandenong Market. On what date will Dandenong residents be getting a say on the site of the Dandenong Community Hub? Mr. Fiddler, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Lisa, for your question. Dandenong residents will be able to review and provide feedback on the Dandenong Community Hub concept plan for 4 weeks commencing in July this year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is from Sabrina Miletto of Dandenong. In the next stage of consultation on the Dandenong Community Hub in July, will the concept designs presented be site-specific or site-independent? Mr. Fiddler.
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Sabrina, for your question. It is intended for the draft concept plan to be site-specific. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. What is the latest status and next steps with the planning for an A-League stadium on Cheltenham Road, Dandenong? Mr. Keasley, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Keasley, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank Mr. Kerwin for the question. We have actually just commenced the feasibility and business case, which is jointly funded by both the City of Greater Dandenong, Sport and Recreation Victoria on behalf of the state government and Melbourne City Football Club. The 3 parties have recently appointed Deloitte as the overarching consultant in order for the feasibility and business case to be undertaken. And we are underway, and we hope to have that finalised for submission to the state government through their budget processes later this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Mr Benny, please.
The next three questions are from Dom Bakari of Keysborough. The next two questions are very similar, so I intend to ask both these questions and then refer to Mr Thorley to respond to them sequentially. Surely no governing body managed by humans could possibly supply a certificate of occupancy to Lot 1, especially knowing the Victorian Building Authority state on the website that one of the main objectives of the Building Act 1993, the Act, is to protect the safety and health of people who use those buildings and to enhance the amenity of buildings. The relevant building surveyor, RBS, issuing an occupancy permit has a duty of care to ensure that buildings are safe and habitable. That concludes the quote, I believe. Also, their website states that building practitioners have a legal obligation to ensure that no harm to people or damage to property results from their actions. Liability for negligence extends to the issue of occupancy permits for building work under Part 5, Division 1 of the Act. Failure to attend to these matters before an occupancy permit is issued can have serious results. An investigation may lead to deregistration, litigation, and even criminal prosecution in the event that a person is killed or injured or a building is damaged. Now the question, please consider the liability to Lot 1 of the building site on Cheltenham Road near Homeco and the safety of all the residents and community accessing Homeco and the childcare. The second question from Dom Bakari of Keysborough, about the same site I believe. Reference number P-sub, Plan of Subdivision 18/0190, Planning Permit Reference PLN 18/0630, with Council dated document 24th of the 10th 2019. Was this space previously marked on the plans for public open space, which is now building site, Lot 1, on PS 729572N, Cheltenham Road, Homeco? Mr Thorley could respond.
Mr Thorley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you, and thank you, Mr Bakari, for your questions. And thanks for bringing, in relation to your first question, thanks for bringing this building matter to our attention. What I can say is council officers from the building, planning and engineering departments will conduct a review of this development in response to a number of concerns that have been raised from the community on this issue and very similar issues relating to this site. Thank you. That concludes the response to question 1. And in relation to question 2, I can say that the land at Lot 1, PS 729572N, as referred to in your question, otherwise known as 452 Cheltenham Road, is land that forms a wider area of land zoned as mixed-use purpose. While this land sat vacant for some time, it has been in private ownership and has not been set aside for the purpose of public open space. As such, I can confirm that this development has not resulted in the loss of any public open space. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Thorley. Mr Benny, please.
Next question is also from Dom Bakari of Keysborough. I believe an opportunity has risen to apply for a position of the CEO and General Manager of the newly formed council-owned company South East Leisure. These two employment opportunities were posted on Seek on the 4th of June 2021, 6 business working days ago. I see on another website these opportunities to apply have closed. Were these two positions within South East Leisure advertised on the CGD Council website, the City of Opportunities? If not, why not? Has Council given the right people the chance to be part of these two exciting roles? Mr Fiddler can respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Dom, for your question. South East Leisure is a newly formed company of the City of Greater Dandenong with a charter to operate the city's 4 major aquatic and leisure facilities from the 1st of July 2022. Sports people have been engaged to run the recruitment process for the one position, being the Chief Executive Officer position, on behalf of South East Leisure, and have posted the advertisement on a range of appropriate sites, including Seek. The recruitment is open until the 28th of June, and it's our understanding in contacting Seek that advertisement is also still open. This is a South East Leisure role, and the Greater Dandenong Council employment website only advertises employment opportunities with Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
The next, there are 3 questions actually from Maria Sampi of Dandenong North. I'll deal with them each individually. The first question, it was a package deal that in the CIP of 2019, there was money set aside of $180,000 for the service road in Bakers Road next to the nursing home car park to have the service road opened. $35,000 was also set aside for a pedestrian crossing for Heritage Hill Kindergarten, money set aside for a car park for kindergarten. Why hasn't that project commenced? Mr Kearsley could respond, Madam Mayor. Mr
Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank Ms Sampi for the question. The monies for the project were subject to a council decision on the 23rd of November 2020 when council considered deferring a range of capital works projects based on the current COVID situation at that particular time, and that was one of those projects that was deferred late last year. However, I can advise that it is listed as a project in the 21-22 budget year for completion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Mr Benny, please.
The second question from Maria Sampi. Two new elderly pensioner groups are being asked to pay per hour hiring fees, which existing elderly groups do not pay a fee and have not paid any fees for the last 20 years or so. New elderly groups should be treated and charged the same as their predecessors, which is nil. How long will it further take council officers to come up with a solution, as it has been more than 18 months when it was only supposed to take 6 months? Mr Fiddler could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Madam Mayor, I will take this question on behalf of Mr Fiddler.
Right.
It does fall between both Mr Fiddler's area and mine, and I think I've drawn the short straw on this occasion.
Thanks,
The
Mr.
simple
Dench.
answer is that new seniors clubs who meet the criteria of a seniors group can now apply for free rent of council facilities, subject to a number of conditions. These groups should discuss their applications with council's facilities coordinator in order to resolve their needs. So what we're asking is for those groups to come forward and discuss them with our facilities coordinator, and we'll discuss their needs with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jench. Mr Benny, please.
The third question from Maria Sampi relates to South East Leisure Proprietary Limited Company administration. 3 councillors... Sorry, there are numbers on here which don't make sense in this situation. So the question seems to be, councillors have been elected to represent the residents of our city. So how will the residents have their say and voice their concerns if there is no councillor representative on the new committee? How many and who was on the interview panel to appoint the new candidates? Mr Fiddler, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Sampi, for your question. The Management Services Agreement, which is included as part of tonight's agenda, includes that Council may notify South East Leisure in writing of up to 2 individuals to be Council representatives. That's 1 councillor and 1 council employee at the director level. As with current arrangements, residents will be able to have their say by raising any matters requiring attention with South East Leisure, council officers or council representatives. As resolved by council, the interview panel for the members of the board included council's CEO, the Director of Community Services, the Manager of Community Development, Sport and Recreation, and an expert external industry person. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
The next series of questions are from Natalie Tormay of Keysborough. Natalie asks 8 questions and council's governance procedures place a restriction on the number of questions to be asked, being 3. On this occasion this evening, I'm going to read all 8. I'm going to refer then all of those questions to Mr. Kearsley, who may respond to 3 or may take those and all questions on notice. Regardless, any questions asked tonight will be addressed in due course and in writing to Natalie Tormé. I'm a purchaser of the new townhouse in Keysborough called Keysborough Townhouses, previously Everleigh. In reflection of recent community discussion and my own assessment, I would like to address the following pedestrian safety and seek a road safe review within the council or with external parties as required. The following to be discussed: 1, pedestrian safety from the estate to the shops. 2, pedestrian safety from the estate to the bus stops or surrounds. 3, pedestrian safety from the shops to the footpath on Centre Dandenong Road. One side is the development with no footpath or grassed areas to walk on, and the other side is a garden bed. 4, safety of kids at the childcare centre, including those that will be walking to the centre from the estate or from Centre Dandenong Road. Safety for families within the estate. There is no footpaths or grassed areas to walk on, meaning kids will be walking on the road with the cars to walk to the parks in the estate or to the shops or to the community. 6, Lot 1, which is unsafe and seems to be approved in 2018, a late approval. 7, whilst parking is an issue everywhere, the concern is residents will use the shops to park. Where they are 2 to 3 bedroom townhouses, it assumes it is a small small families where there is 2 cars. If they only have a single garage, they will be parking at the shops, increasing safety issues for residents. And 8, visitors parking was advised to be available, but within the development and its surrounds, there is limited space available. Can you please attain a review of this current status? As I said at the outset, Mr. Kearsley could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Kearsley, please.
Through you, Mayor, I'd like to thank Natalie Tormé for the extensive question. I think really due to the nature of the questions, not just in number, but also with regards to matters dealing with safety of children, needing to also have conversations with our town planners with regards to how the development came about. I will be taking all of the 8 on notice and getting back to Ms. Tormé very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is from Gai Guest of Keysborough. Is Council walking with MCG, Maralinga Community Garden Incorporated, down the garden path for a positive outcome for this community venture? Can the community garden policy be brought forward to the CBS earlier than July the 19th? Is it finalised and able to be discussed earlier, as the planning permit is supposed to be known by the 24th of the 6th, 21? If not, why not? Why are some other concepts and projects perceived to be jumping the queue of urgency, given the varying degree of kvetching and yammering on the various issues, when the garden proposal has been on the table for 2.5 years and is shovel ready? Mr. Thorley, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Thorley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Gai, for your question. I guess this question somewhat has been answered in response to Mr. Hunter's questions in number 5 and number 6 tonight. But further to that, Madam Mayor, I'd like to add council officers are currently assessing the planning application for the Maralinga Garden, Community Garden, including working through some of the logistics of its implementation, which is really important. Officers will be in touch shortly with the group to further discuss this and how the implementation can be done as quickly as possible. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Mr. Benny, please.
The next question is also from Gai Guest of Keysborough. Why is Council even talking about selling Walker Street Gallery, given its history to the local area and that it is a much needed community space in a central location? It appears, looking in, that Council is asset rich, cash poor, and robbing Peter to pay Paul, and the logic defies many residents when a central community hub is required and land is scarce. Why sell a historical asset you already own when central meeting spaces are needed? I can respond to Ms Guest at this stage, Madam Mayor, with 3 key points. The first is that Council has not yet formally resolved to treat on this particular property nor sell it. However, it is appropriate to say that Council continues to be open-minded and mindful of the need to offset significant costs for a range of major projects that it has on its capital works program at the moment, some of which, of course, are related to this particular property, being the new art gallery in Mason Street that is planned to replace this building. And, of course, the disposal of redundant assets by Council to fund new assets is a principle that Council is obliged to consider among many options. And finally, at the moment, Council and those many people being engaged within the community do not consider that the Walker Street site has any role to play as a Dandenong community hub. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Benny.
The final question, Mayor and Councillors, is from Harpreet Kaur of Dandenong. I read in the Dandenong Journal that the Council are going to put the Dandenong Community Hub on a tiny site. Why is Council having these generous community hub sites with open spaces in Springvale and Keysborough South and leaving the Dandenong community shortchanged? Mr Fiddler, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Kerr, for your question. Council has recently completed the first stage of the hub consultation and engagement, seeking community views on services for inclusion in the hub and 4 possible locations along Stewart Street in Dandenong. Engagement participants were also able to provide views on alternative location proposals. A precise building footprint and preferred site have not yet been finalised and will be informed by a site analysis currently underway and also in discussion with Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Item number 4, Officers Report Part 2. 4.1 Contracts. 4.1.1 Contract number 2021-45, Repair and Maintenance of Parks Infrastructure and Facilities. Moved by
Councillor Dark.
Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Formoso.
Councillor Tan.
Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2, Finance and Budget. 4.2.1, Supplementary Valuation Return 2021-24 and 2021-4 and 2021-4A. Is there a mover, please?
Happy to move, Councillor Mamedi.
Moved by Councillor Mamedi, seconded by Councillor Milkovich. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.3, Other. 4.3.1, Review of Mayoral and Councillor Allowances. Moved by
I'm happy to
Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition?
Madam Mayor, we can't hear you.
You can't hear?
We didn't hear what you just said previously.
It was moved by Councillor Lim and seconded by Councillor Garrard. Is that correct? The item number 4.3.1, Review of Mayoral and Councillor Allowances. Can you hear me now?
Yep. It's the volume's going in and out.
You're breaking up, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. Can you hear me now properly? You can.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you want me to repeat the item?
No.
No.
No, it's okay.
So as I said, moved by Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Garrard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.3.2, reports on matters discussed at council briefing sessions and pre-council meetings the 10th and 17th of May 2021. Moved by
Councillor Tan.
Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Foster. Is there any questions? Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? Sorry. Did you have a question, Councillor Lim?
No question.
No. Thank you. Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.3.3, Southeast, oh sorry.
No, you go ahead, sorry. Read the item.
Yeah, Southeast Leisure Proprietary Limited Company Administration. Mr. Benny, please.
Mayor and councillors, could I just remind you that Mr. Mick Jench, the Director of Corporate Services, has submitted a disclosure of conflict of interest in relation to this item. I read it out at the outset, but I'll read it again. It relates to this item, 4.3.3, Southeast Leisure Proprietary Limited. The type of interest is a direct material conflict of interest of a pecuniary nature. The nature of Mr. Jench's interest is that council is noting his proposed appointment to the board of Southeast Leisure in this report. This evening, Mr. Jench will now exit the online meeting, and we'll call him back when the item is finalised.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, might I also, before you call for a mover and a seconder, to highlight a couple of changes that I have made to this report, important changes, I believe, in terms of the clarity of the council's position in relation to this matter. I will acknowledge that these clarifications have come about through some questions asked by councillors, and one of them is rather self-evident in terms of it being incorrect in the original report. I draw those the attention of anyone with a report before them to page 115, and to the very last sentence on that page. In a copy of the agenda that was distributed last week, the last part of that sentence said, with engagement reached on these appointments. So the sentence in full stated, prior to the exercise of the power delegated by council, a discussion was held with councillors at the briefing session held 31st of May 21 with agreement reached on these appointments. That is an incorrect statement. It was a briefing session of council. There is no agreement, no voting is conducted with councillors. Councillors, in fact, noted the status of the appointment. I have, before tonight's meeting, changed the report to more accurately reflect the circumstances, and the back end of that statement now reads, when the Chief Executive Officer's intention in exercising the authority delegated were noted. So again, the sentence in full states, prior to the exercise of the power delegated by council, a discussion was held with councillors at the council briefing session held 31st of May 2021, when the Chief Executive Officer's intentions in exercising the authority were noted. Now that was a change made to the report before the council meeting, before council considers this matter. Changes were made to the online report, so anyone now reading that report online will read those changes. The only people who will not note the change might have been those who collected a hard copy prior to today. All councillors have been given an updated version of this report and have been briefed on the changes that I'm now talking about. The other changes that I want to highlight relate to the recommendation being made to council. For some not dissimilar reasons, the question was asked as to whether parts 3 and 4 of the recommendation said enough by referring to, in 3, notes the appointment of a range of people to be appointed as directors, and in part 4, notes the appointment of Stephen Wright as the board chairperson. I have now proposed that the recommendations be changed as follows. Part 3 would become notes that in exercising the authority formally delegated to him by Council Resolution of the 8th of February 2021, the Chief Executive Officer intends to appoint Stephen Wright, Dr. Malak Sukar, etc., as printed in the agenda. And recommendation 4 becomes notes that in exercising the authority formally delegated to him by Council Resolution of the 8th of February 2021, the Chief Executive Officer intends to appoint Stephen Wright as the Board's chairperson. So with those changes, Madam Mayor, I propose that they be incorporated into the report to be considered by Council in its deliberations this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Benny. I need a mover and a seconder for this report. Can I
Happy
have
to move,
one?
Mayor. Councillor Dark.
Councillor Dark, moved, seconded by Councillor Milkovich. Is there any questions, councillors?
Madam Mayor, I
Councillor
have a
Garrard?
question.
Yeah, Councillor Garrard, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, could the CEO please clarify the role of council and councillors in the appointment of directors to the board of SEL and elaborate as necessary on the comments he made at the commencement of this item and the need for any change to this report?
Mr. Benny, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. The changes that I've outlined, I believe, are implicit in the report, but I think the corrections were needed to provide absolute clarity around that. The Council's key role in this matter was enacted on the 5th of February 2021 when in a report to Council, the Council resolved in a number of ways, and one of those was to delegate authority to me to commence a process that would involve the recruitment, engagement and appointment of directors and the chair to the board of South East Leisure. I take all such delegations very seriously. I have briefed Council often enough over the years that in exercising any authority delegated to me, that it is my preference that I brief Council on how I intend to exercise that delegated authority. So at a recent briefing of Council, having completed all of the steps of the process that Council delegated to me to undertake, I provided a briefing to Council of that process, of those people that were involved in the process being the interview panel, including myself, and the 6 nominees that I was intending to appoint as delegated by Council. Council simply noted that I was exercising that authority and also noted the nominees that were the subject of me exercising that authority.
Thank you, Mr. Benny.
Thank you, Mr. Benny, for your response. I'd just like to reflect back to you what I've heard is that that councillors have no role in the selection and the appointment of directors to SEL. That's correct.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor.
No, sorry. Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Gerard. Is there any other questions, councillors?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Mamedi.
Thank you, Councillor, Madam Mayor. For people that are watching at home and people that are going to be interested in this, what is the benefits of council going into setting up a company and setting up a board? I see there's a huge setup cost. The setup cost could be up to $2 million. So in the long term, I guess, what are the benefits for the community?
Mr. Fiddler, please. Mr. Fiddler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are extensive benefits that have been discussed. Having an independent professional board, as similar with the Dandenong Market Proprietary Limited Board, have achieved very positive and successful outcomes for council, and they're obviously getting some very strategic and professionally advised people on this board to give specialist advice and to get the best outcome for council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Any other questions, councillors?
Yeah, thank you. Just to follow up, there's a huge initial cost of up to about $2 million setting up this company. when will we see those benefits passed back on to council by setting up this board?
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, currently we estimate the cost to run these facilities and the aquatic facilities is around $3.6 million a year. We know that it's going to take a couple of years for the board to put their business strategic plans in place, but we're very confident that particularly with the new facilities that are coming on board, so you've got the new Dandenong Wellbeing Centre, the revitalised Stage 2 Noble Park Aquatic Centre, the Dandenong Basketball Stadium, Springers Leisure Centre, all centres that are very well used in the southeast and across the city of Greater Dandenong municipality. We believe that with this board in place and with a strategic plan in place, that we'll start to see significant efficiencies and improvements that council will be able to monitor and manage very closely, and therefore in the next few years ahead, particularly once the Dandenong Wellbeing Centre opens, and that has state-of-the-art facilities in it, like 3 warm water pools, gym services. We know these facilities bring a better return to council, but these facilities are not just about saving money, they're actually about improving health and wellbeing outcomes for local residents. And so we're really excited that these facilities will be state-of-the-art, world-class facilities that people will want to attend, participate in. And so we believe memberships, participation will go up, and therefore health and wellbeing benefits will go up, but also revenue will hopefully go up as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Can we have Mr. Jench back in the meeting, please? I can move on, all right. Item number 4.3.4, list of registered correspondence to Mayor and councillors. Moved by Councillor Lim. Are you?
I'm happy to move.
And second by Councillor Garrard.
I'll second that, councillor.
Is there any questions, councillors?
Mayor, I have a question.
Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. I note on the correspondence that we've received that there was a letter from David Davis MP with regards to the proposed planning amendment VC 194. I just want to get a response from the relevant director, given that it raises concerns about council's planning rights when it comes to projects being funded.
Mr. Thorley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, Councillor Dark, I'm not privy to our response that we provided and what the letter details are, but I can get that information for you and respond.
You'll take that
shortly.
on notice? Thank you. Any other questions, councillors?
Mayor, I've got one more question as well.
Yes, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a second item as well. There's a letter of support from a resident regarding Gaelic Park and a function room. I just want to find out what exactly that is with regards to, particularly if I know Gaelic Park is an institution amongst a lot of residents in our municipality, and why we've received a letter of support regarding the Gaelic Park, whether there's an issue or there's an application or something like that.
It's Gaelic Park. Mr. Fiddler. Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not aware of that particular letter, but again, we can source some information and find out what that is about. Thank you.
I actually got a letter from a policeman about that as well, and I've passed it on, so hopefully someone got it. Thank you. Is there any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 5, notice of motion. 5.1, notice of motion number 10, proposed policy on councillors' contact register with developers, submitters and lobbyists. Councillor Garrard and Councillor O'Reilly, who is going to speak on this? Who's going to
Madam
move
Mayor,
it?
I'm happy to speak on this.
You're going to move it, Councillor Garrard? Seconded
move
by
it.
Councillor O'Reilly, is that correct?
Councillor O'Reilly, yes, please.
Yep. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Thank you.
Mayor, could I speak on that, please?
Yeah, Councillor O'Reilly, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thanks to councillors for their unanimous support on this one. Just to give my perspective on this, I think currently if a developer or applicant contacts me, there's currently no way for me to put that on the public record that I have been contacted and had a discussion with them. So what this motion intends to do is to get some different options and ideas and discuss it amongst councillors on how we may put that on councillors that wish to, and this will be one of the things that will be discussed, whether it's voluntary or what the expectation will be as far as the size of the application and the nature of the contact, and how to inform who the person that will be put on the register, how to sort of let them know that they may be put on it and so on. But I think in the environment that we are, the public expects increased transparency in decision making amongst their elected leaders, and I'm glad that council has taken this first step to move towards that sort of heightened level of transparency and accountability, and informing the public of the different inputs into what we have as sometimes complex decisions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you,
Madam
Councillor
Mayor, can I
O'Reilly.
also
Councillor
speak to this?
Garrard, do you want to say something as well?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to also thank the councillors. I think this is a tremendous display amongst all of us that we stand for open and transparent governance. And this register will allow the community to view councillor developer interactions, and it will instill confidence that all parties are acting in the best interests of the community. And given that we are situated next to the city of Casey, where currently residents do not have their democratic right to councillor representation, I think this is an important move, and I congratulate my fellow councillors for supporting this tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Item number 6, reports from councillors, delegates and councillors' questions. Now I'm going to go down through the list again. It's Councillor Dark, you're first.
Thanks, Mayor. I have no report to give.
Thank you. Councillor Formoso.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like firstly to bring to everybody's attention the incredible storms that took place from last week. Obviously, everyone's well aware of it. Some of you were probably directly or indirectly affected by this. So I'd like to make a real special shout out to my crew at SES Greater Dandenong, who took 160 calls to assist people in need, obviously during this treacherous weather. We also worked brilliantly with council on this, so I'd like to thank Mr. Kearsley and Mr. Charles Tavera's team. We had people working through the night, obviously contractors, arborists, park staff, customer service, everybody worked really, really well. And I don't think people really appreciate what goes on behind the scenes and what actually does take place for us to keep our community safe and tree on house free. So big shout out to SES Greater Dandenong and all of council staff. Thank you very, very much from all of us. It makes our lives a lot easier. Obviously, as volunteers, it's not a pleasant thing to be heading out in the middle of those storms. I'm extremely exhausted, as the rest of the team, but also to let you know that we deploy units to Gippsland, Frankston and Emerald as well to assist them. So just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. On that, Unfortunately, on Mills Road, where our unit is located, we have a severe hooning issue. And you can appreciate, particularly during this storm period when we were entering and exiting the premises, our lives are often in danger due to the hooning that goes on this road. We have brought it to the attention of police. However, I think we really need to work with council as well, being that it is council land, to try and alleviate some of this stress on all of us volunteers at the unit and, of course, the rest of the public. So if the appropriate director could please look into that, and you can have that on notice, that's not an issue. And another thing that I would like to bring to everyone's attention is our Stud Road rubbish crisis. Now, I can't even think of a time that I've travelled along Stud Road, in particular between David Street and Clough Street, where I haven't seen illegal rubbish dumped along there. It is just appalling. It's disgusting. Residents are sick of it. Business owners are sick of it. And also, in particular, the shops at 30 Stud Road. If anyone can imagine the strip of shops there's about four businesses in that little strip, the amount of rubbish that is constantly dumped there, which then spills over onto the car park as well as the footpath. So I would really, really appreciate if we could look into this matter. And I understand we're constantly cleaning it up. It's constantly being dumped again. We also have to keep in mind that we've got a lot of people travelling along that road, and I can only imagine what they think when they see that rubbish, and it's just so unsightly. And I understand that we have been removing it, and it's a huge cost to council, but we definitely need to look at ways of rectifying this long term. So if the appropriate officer could please respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all, Councillor Formoso?
Oh, no, I've got more. I was just waiting for the officer to
Sorry,
respond.
Mr. Keasley, do you want to respond to that? Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm happy to respond. Thank you, Councillor. It is an issue that we are aware of, and we look forward, I think, to perhaps some strengthening in our local law, which will occur upon the adoption of the new one. But I've been advised that the waste team are having a conversation and a meeting about this tomorrow in terms of what extra activities we can undertake. But you're quite right in saying that cleaning it up just means people put more stuff there. It may well be that we actually have to increase some surveillance and possibly even issue fines, but that's a matter that we will discuss with our friends in that part of council and see whether we can come up with a plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Formoso?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Keasley. That's brilliant. Exactly what I was thinking as well. Some CCTV, signage and reporting, and maybe working with real estate agents and body corporates along there as well. Really just sick and tired of seeing it, to be honest. The other question I had, a very quick one, has to do with the little pocket park that we have on Browns Road, Noble Park North. Residents have actually contacted me on numerous occasions about the fact that there is no fencing along that little pocket park, and it's very, very close to Browns Road. And as we all know, Browns Road isn't the safest road in terms of the driving that's going on along there. So a lot of residents have been a bit concerned that children could run out onto the road. And there has been a couple of near misses, so it'd be really good if we can look at putting some fencing along there, please. And also, residents have said that there's absolutely enough space to plant some more trees, and if we could look at that as well, please. Thank you.
Mr. Keasley, please.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. We can certainly look at both issues, and I think we had a recent one by Councillor Milkovich in that similar area with regards to the provision of a fence to prevent possible children following a ball, and that's the sort of thing that we will look into, and also additional planting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Formoso, any more?
Just one more, if I could, please, Mayor. This one has to do, I've had a couple of residents ask me about this one as well. In terms of Coolavin Road Park, also a little small park with some pretty outdated equipment, to be honest. Just wondering when we last did any kind of upgrades in that park, and if we are due to do any, and if we could possibly look at that one in our next budget, please.
Thank you. Mr. Thorley, please. Where are you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll take that question on notice.
Thank you.
Councillor Formosa, and get back to you, though I do note that there has been a recent investigation, or is currently an investigation into the use of our open space. And will form part of that, no doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Councillor Formoso.
Thank you for that, Mr. Thorley. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Foster, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to also acknowledge the hard work that Councillor Formoso has done with part of her work with the SES, and particularly over the past week that we've had with the difficult weather. And I guess I also want to just recognise that today's International Cleaners Day. I think COVID has highlighted the need we have for cleaners, and I think we don't appreciate them enough. So I just wanted to put that out there, and that was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Garrard, please. Councillor Garrard, unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry, it's very stressful. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd also like to acknowledge the great work of the council during the storms. There were a number of issues in Keysborough South that they responded to really quickly. So I'd like to extend my thanks, and also to Lana and SES. I'd also like to acknowledge that this is Mick Gent's last meeting. I'd like to thank him for his financial stewardship to the City of Greater Dandenong, and for his kind support to me since the election, and I wish him all the best in his hopefully less stressful future. I have submitted 6 questions regarding the HomeCo Shopping Centre development, also known as 456, I think it is, Cheltenham Road. I won't read all those questions now because Natalie has actually covered a lot of these. What I'll do is these have been tabled, so I will get responses for these, but I would just like to say that the residents are deeply concerned. They have woken up to the reality that this development encroaches on the shopping centre. It does not provide safe access for pedestrians. It forces pedestrians to mingle with road traffic as they enter the shopping centre. And of great concern is the location of a childcare centre right next to this development, which will force mothers, parents with prams to walk in with traffic towards that childcare centre, which is of great safety concern. It's also very, very concerning that the council approved this amendment in 2018, where the corner house, which is of great concern, was approved, and we believe there was green space there that was now replaced with this extra dwelling, which is just a few metres from the road that enters into the shopping complex. So the residents are greatly concerned about the safety aspects. I would like to ask specifically that if this development does pass the test in terms of the ratio of open green space, the ratio of car parks, and whether it allows emergency access, because the roads are so narrow with no footpaths, the residents are concerned there would not be access for emergency vehicles were they required. And it is a large dwelling of 119 dwellings, I understand. I'm also greatly concerned that the shopping centre the businesses will be severely disadvantaged as the car park is taken up with visitors or for extra cars that residents may have. I welcome the safety audit or review that Jamie has indicated he will do. This development is really of great concern, and it should be taken seriously by the council, the safety concerns to the public in not providing appropriate and safe pedestrian access, and by locating one of the dwellings too close to a major traffic area. The traffic issues that will be encountered between the people leaving the dwellings and people entering the shopping centres will be of great concern. There will be tremendous traffic bottlenecks, and it is very perplexing to the residents that these issues were not well considered in the planning application and approval of this development. So I welcome the council to pay particular attention to this, and particularly the safety issues.
Right.
My next question is around
You want an answer? Sorry, Councillor
public
Garrard.
forums. So under the Local Government Act 2020, the Act provides council with the opportunity and the responsibility to enable participatory democracy and strong community engagement. So in line with this principle, will the council commit to rolling out public forums across the municipality, providing residents with the opportunity to ask relevant officers questions about issues of interest, such as planning, traffic management, community infrastructure, and so on?
Mr. Jench, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Garrard, for your kind words before as well. Just in relation to this question, Council already has a guidelines for the holding of community forums. So those guidelines allow for any councillor to call a community forum on any particular topic or topics, and certainly those guidelines also provide for council staff to attend to answer questions as well. So it really is for individual councillors to call a community forum, and certainly staff would attend and support councillors on those topics as well. Council doesn't have any current plans to roll out any series of forums outside this current policy that we have in place. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jench.
Thank you, Mr. Jench. And whilst I acknowledge there's an existing policy, I think it'd be terrific if the council were proactive enough and had a rolling number of forums that were automatically rolled out. I would love for the council to take up that suggestion. My next question, Madam Mayor, is what is the plan on how to get the new city Greater Dandenong Aquatic Centre to meet our council's sustainable building policy and be free of gas?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Upon the appointment of the architect, that also meant we had appointed a very, very good and competent ESD consultant, Integral. They are commencing as of tomorrow with some internal workshops to get moving on the matter of the ESD and sustainability practices that will be a forefront in this particular development. So those ideas, concepts and thoughts following on from Council's policy, including the idea of a 6-star, but also a no gas facility, all of those options will start to be reviewed and looked at in the coming months. And at a point in time, hopefully very soon, when we're able to all get together, it was intended to have a briefing with our architects and consultants, but unfortunately COVID recently in the last fortnight put a stop to that. We are very keen on getting that back and running, where you will be able to engage with our consultant team and express a whole range of views, but also hear from them, importantly, on what they will be looking at as options. That option paper and all of the information with it will come back to a committee of council that we're wanting to establish with regards to the ongoing development and design of the new facility. And we hope to have some further dates and information on that ongoing. So what I can say is that we are definitely looking at all of those options, and no gas is a very, very important one. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Keasley. Just to finish off that point by saying the no gas concept is not a concept or an idea. It is in fact policy. And I look forward to the ESD architects coming back and telling us how they will provide a facility that is gas free. My next question, Madam Mayor, is when will the updated Greater Dandenong Sustainability Strategy be coming back to Council for adoption?
Mr. Thorley, please. Mr. Thorley, please. Sorry.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for your question, Councillor Garrett. In relation to the strategy, it's currently scheduled to be tabled at a council meeting this year in October. I can't give you this specific council meeting, but that's the target we're aiming for. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My next question is, has money been allocated to the 21-22 budget for the very popular Greater Dandenong Shortcuts Film Festival? And if not, why not?
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Funds have been allocated in the proposed 21-22 budget to host an offering dedicated to celebrating the medium of filmmaking. In previous years, this has comprised of the Shortcuts Film Festival, and the expectation for the next financial year is that the festival can once again be hosted. In the context of limitations resulting from COVID-19 restrictions, the challenges this presents for delivering a festival-based offering gives us opportunities to expand and reimagine the Shortcuts Film Festival approach, and that's also being explored for the 21-22 financial year, and we hope to engage the community as broadly as possible as that is explored. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler.
Madam Mayor, can I just ask for clarification? Does that mean the budget allocation has been made for the next financial year, 21-22?
Mr. Fiddler?
It has been proposed.
It has.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Madam Mayor, my last question is regarding an earlier question about the Dandenong Hub, where the officer's answers gave the impression the residents won't be given multiple options for the location of the Dandenong Community Hub, which in fact contradicts what is currently on the website, that site options will be consulted in July, and also what Council resolved on the 14th of September last year, which was there would be a location options survey. It also does not follow with the approach of the Keysborough South Hub, where non-site specific concept designs were first consulted on and given a mix of features. The officer response last year said that would be the residents would be surveyed and given a range of location options. So my question is, will the residents be given a range of location options, and will the website be updated commensurately with this information?
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. The response is that we were looking at the precinct near the Dandenong Market. That was made quite open, that was the precinct being looked at. We also invited conversation and proposals from the community for ideas on other sites. So we can take that into consideration from all the feedback that we've received so far. As I said, the site analysis is being further discussed with councillors as we move forward into the business planning and then into concept plans. So the answer is yes, we can look at that.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all for me.
That's all for you. Thank you. Councillor Lim, please. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry, thanks, Councillor Tan. Thanks, Madam Mayor. On Tuesday, the 25th of May, I attended Springvale Community Hub. We had a good discussion regarding the action plan, community celebration, and especially new partnerships such as JP Services, Job Corps, ABS Census, volunteer resources. To me, the most important in our city is we provide JP Services or Springvale Community Hub between Monday to Friday 10 to 1 and 4 to 7 p.m. yeah, every day except Saturday and Sunday. To me, it is a very great idea because it can help our community, especially because of the uh, all the police station stopped providing those services since the lockdown. And also the other thing is also ease my workload as well as a JP. And finally, I would like to thank Mr. Charles Caveira by acting promptly to my request regarding to rubbish at St. John Avenue and St. James Avenue. That's all for me. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Councillor Mamedi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to start off by thanking Mr. Jench for his services to the City of Greater Dandenong over many years. I remember when Mick started, I think it might have been in 2007, if I'm not wrong, where I can actually say that the Corporate Service Director is actually much better now than what it was back then. So he's leaving it in a better position than what he found it. So I really like to thank Mr. Jench for all his hard work and many, many years of service to the City of Greater Dandenong. And I wish him well in his future and whatever he chooses to do. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Madam Mayor, I would also like to congratulate Country Cobb Bakery, who opened up a fantastic pie shop. They've actually won for the last 4 years Best Pie in Australia. Last year, I think they had 14 gold medals and 5 national titles. So I encourage our community to support this local small business on 890 Princess Highway. I was very fortunate to be invited to the opening ceremony last Friday, and it just shows that these businesses, this is their 3rd business that they're opening up in Victoria, and places like Greater Dandenong are very promising, and our multicultural community, I think, will enjoy these pies because there's so many different flavours that I was surprised that they've got 20, 30, 40 different pies. So it was great to be there last Friday and welcome them to our city. I'd also congratulate our council staff and also the SES who did a fantastic job last week and over the weekend, I guess. Can we have just a small overview of what council had to do in supporting our residents when they called up and there was an emergency and trees down? Can we just have a small overview, Madam Mayor?
Pardon? Mr. Keasley, please. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Councillor, and thank you to the other councillors who expressed their appreciation for staff. We had staff out at all hours of the morning in that horrendous wind and rain. So again, I'd like to just put on record my thanks and appreciation as well. But certainly, Councillor, we can get an update. I did send one, I think, out, which was probably during the storm rather than at the end. So I'll get an update from the relevant officers and circulate that in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Also, good to hear that the feasibility study for the Cheltenham Road with council and the state government and the city group. Just a question: is the community going to be consulted with that feasibility study?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. It's not expected to, because the feasibility is reviewing all of the work that this council previously undertook during 2018 when we were part of the Team 11 bid. The issue that we faced in continuing to advocate for the stadium at a state government level was that they had no particular ownership of the documentation or the strategies that this council, along with Casey and the Shire of Cardinia, had put together during 2018. So we've handed over a what I would say is a fairly large mountain, probably at least a wheelbarrow full of documentation and previously adopted, and also the consultation that we did on the stadium in that location with regards to the community feedback. All of that will be provided and has been provided to Deloitte to really test and put it through their processes to identify whether we missed anything or whether or not it's a very strong position that we can continue to put forward. The business case is actually one that is authorised by the Department of Treasury and Finance. So it's done to a particular format that meets the obligations and requirements of the Treasury in the state government. Fairly technical and detailed project, but it is intended to bring Deloitte back in front of council for a discussion about it, but we do need some further months to allow them to actually review all of the material and documentation. And we believe that the next phase of any consultation will be done once we've hopefully managed to get money from the government in order to perhaps appoint an architect to actually develop up what we believe would be the plans that would end up being built there, rather than the plans that we currently have, which are those that we were using to highlight the opportunity through the Team 11 process. So I wouldn't say we would be intending to go through detailed consultation, but we would certainly be doing that prior to any construction occurring on site.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Jench. And that was going to be my next question: as are the consultants actually going to come and speak to councillors? So it's good to hear from you that in the next few months that will happen. So thank you for that. Also, I'd like to thank Vic Roads. Actually, we normally bag them because they're a bit slow in doing things, but I'd like to thank through you, Mr. Kearsley, who over where the bridge is coming towards Dandenong Frankston Road and Kirkham Road there was a lot of that fencing that had been smashed into over many years, and it looked terrible. And it was more of a gateway also the other way coming back into Greater Dandenong CBD. So thank Vic Roads for fixing all those fencing, and it looks a lot better and it looks a lot safer as well, because a lot of pedestrians walk over that bridge as well. Also, I've had a couple of the shop owners I met with in Langorn Street, near Foster Street. I met with the owner of the deli and also the pizza shop. I'm not sure what the name, which pizza shop it was again. There's a few there on Langorn Street. But they're requesting 30-minute car bays because most of their customers only come in for a short time, either pick up a pizza or go into the deli for 15 or 20 minutes. And sometimes there's cars that are parked there for 2 hours and they don't really have that opportunity for people to actually come in and park for a short time, buy what they need, pick it up and move on. So if we can have a look at that, it's on the corner of Foster Street and Langorn Street where the deli and the pizza shops are. Madam Mayor, if an officer can respond, please.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. We can certainly look at that, and what we normally do is then undertake a practice of surveying those local businesses in the area, not just those that have asked, but maybe a few more around, just to make sure that we don't suddenly change the signage and then we have an issue with opposition to 30 minutes. So we'll get the traffic engineers involved and get them out and get them talking to the traders to see if we can give them a hand.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley. Also, just a progress on the Dandenong Community Art Gallery. We went for a walk, I think about 3 or 4 months ago. What's the progress, and when is it still on budget and on time for completion?
Is that Mr. Kearsley again? It's the art program. The art. Mr. Kearsley, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, we are on target in terms of the timing. I believe that we're looking at late September, October, but the update on the finances, I'll have to take that on notice. And of course, with this recent weather, we may have lost a couple of weeks with regards to any further works on the site. So that I'll get an update to Council and get some further information out to you in the coming days.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley. I appreciate that. And my final question, I see Development Victoria land on Walker Street, where the proposed Salvation Army has work started there. I saw some bobcats, etc. Is that the works they're starting to develop that land?
Is that Mr. Kearsley? Mr. Kearsley, please.
Yes, they have. And pardon if I sound surprised, it has taken some time to get that site under construction, but I believe we've seen an invitation for the mayor and councillors to attend. I think it's about the 7th of July, but I'm sure Ms Thorne will be able to advise on that date. But that is a sod turning event, and it will be great to see maybe not a big crane because it is not a large multi-storey development, but certainly to see other activity in the centre of Dandenong at this point will be a wonderful thing.
Thank you, Mr. Kearsley. And
Thank you.
talking about cranes, I think there's already 2 up in central Dandenong. We probably haven't, they'll be missing for quite a few years, but it's good to see that they're back and work in central Dandenong is actually starting to pick up again. And that's all my questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Milkovich, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of questions tonight. Would I be able to get just an approximate range of costs for Dandenong Community Hub? I know that no decisions have been made regarding the size or whatever, but just a potential sort of cost from what to what we might be facing here. If the relevant officer could respond, please, through you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Fiddler or Mr. Gedge? Mr. Fiddler, please.
I'm happy to take that, Madam Mayor. Thank you. A small hub ranges anywhere from around $3 to $4 million up to a large scale hub could be around $18 to $20 million.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Fiddler.
you, Mr. Fiddler. Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Second question, can we get an update from the relevant officer for you, Madam Mayor, regarding the cricket nets at Lewis Towing Reserve? I know that they're driven past the other day and they're still sort of covered in shrubs and sort of half folded. Is there any update as to when that will be re-erected? I know we had issues with the Melbourne Water and also I think Southeast Water who have the ownership of it, but is there any further update on that, please?
Which cricket field was that? Sorry, Councillor Milkovich.
That was the cricket pitch at Lewis Towing Reserve.
Lois Tweed.
On Carlton Road, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Fiddler, is that you or Mr. Keasley?
No, that'll be me. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, you're correct. It was an issue related to the complexity of a number of water authorities where we had located the fence, and unfortunately, we needed their consent to replace the fence. If you leave that one with me, I will follow up to see where that was. The last I heard was, but that was a few weeks ago, that we were still waiting. So again, I'll follow that up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Another question, I think it might be directed at you. Another one with the simple kind of solution that requires a complex input from all different agencies is how far away are we from signing a MOU with the Department of Transport? I've spoken to Gabrielle Williams. This was in regards to these bus stops or bus shelters that were removed, and she's sort of advised me that there is MOU on the table. Have we progressed with signing of that to expedite the process, please?
Mr. Keasley?
Thank you, Councillor. We haven't not yet seen the details of the MOU. We've had conversations and we understand what the MOU will cover, which we understand to be the replacement of a number of bus shelters that have been removed. I think the number may be 6, but it could be more. We are having a meeting with senior DOT representatives. I think it's a week Friday. So what's that, around the 24th of this month? And hopefully prior to that, we'll actually see some of that material in writing, and I'll certainly get Lucas to ensure that that happens so that it makes the meeting more valuable. So as soon as we get that sort of information and any timing of that MOU, we'll certainly let you and others know.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. And my final question, on one of my 5K radius walks last week towards my mum's place, just to check on her, and this is my little pet head, a number of bins, most of the time located within the residential complexes of apartment buildings in Dandenong, and recycling bins are overfilled with the general rubbish, nappies, bags, so on and so forth. It seems to be that this is sort of a reoccurring issue, and I'm sure that, with all our recycling efforts within the city of Greater Dandenong and emphasis on environment protection or whatever, is there a way that we can somehow, first of all, either educate those residents as to what goes to those bins, and then if the education doesn't work, apply some sort of an enforcement or fines where we can actually teach them the hard way, unfortunately, because I've driven past and I've taken about half a dozen photos, and out of 20 bins that I've seen where the pancake parlour used to be just further down the road at number 151 Princess Highway, about 95% are filled with general rubbish, just bags hanging out. The crows are added, the seagulls are added. It's very unsightly. I shared Councillor Formosa's sentiment where it should not happen like that, but unfortunately, it just seems to be a recurring issue. Is there something that we can do to either educate these people, or if they can't be educated, then apply some sort of fines to get them back in line with the rest of the efforts that we, as Dandenong residents, are doing our best to try and minimise the landfill waste, please? Thank you.
Councillor Milkovich, I actually had a problem with my recycle bin. I'd put it out the front with just recycle, and someone had actually come along and put all their rubbish, which I had to drag out of that recycle bin and dispose of.
Yeah, I understand that, but this was like a widespread issue. I'm not talking just Princess Highway, Dandenong, which is quite notorious along Stud Road. I'm talking all along Potter Street. That's even worse. It's honestly, it looks like a ghetto. Hemming Street, disaster. You know, all along, and then you got Pickett Street, you got Scott Street. It seems to be there wherever there's an apartment building, whether that's 5, 10, 20 apartments or whatever, the issue is just happening there. If you've got a property next door that's a sort of standalone residential property, the issue doesn't seem to exist, not to that extent anyway. So what can be done if the officers can look at, like I said, either education or, you know, worst case scenario, issuing fines, so we can, you know, all these efforts that we are doing as residents and as a council don't go to waste.
Right, Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. There are a number of things that we can do. If you can identify in an email the particular properties or the street, we can send out our litter enforcement officer to do the education side of things. If that fails due to people not wanting or not bothering to take that sort of information on, our collection vehicles do undertake audits quite regularly. When the bin is actually tipped into the trucks, they can actually turn the cameras on and see what exactly is, and then those people who own those bins get a bit of a reminder, a sticker on the bin and other pieces of information outlining exactly what they've done wrong. And that's something that we can certainly look at. At the end of the day, it is up to the user of those bins to do the right thing. And I must say that the majority of people in our municipality do that, but I recognise there are issues where people don't. But if you can certainly inform us of the particular streets, we can get our litter education officer out to at least give them the information that they need, but also checking on whether or not it's our bin collection or whether it's a private bin collection service. Some apartments do have private bin collection services, and that's where our enforcement and education is more difficult. But we can certainly do our best to improve the education and also then do some audits to see whether or not further action can be taken.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. No, just for your reference, this wasn't a private, rubbish collection. They're quite clearly marked. Usually JJ Richards or Cleanaway do that. This was definitely a council collection. There was about 20, 30 bins. I mean, the addresses are basically Princess Highway, Stud Road, Hemming Street, Potter Street, Pickett Street and Scott Street. They're the worst offenders, and that's where the huge number of apartment buildings is located, along Edith Street as well, and Market Street to a lesser extent. But it's really wherever the residential apartment buildings are with 5, 10, 20 apartments, it seems to be happening. And it seems to be happening all the time, because I've kept an eye on this. I thought it was an isolated incident at first of all. I started keeping an eye on this probably about 3 months ago, thinking, okay, this is, might have just not been done correctly or whatever. But I can tell you, it's happening non-stop all the time.
Yep. Now we'll go and have a look.
Thank you. That's all, Madam Mayor.
That's it. Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I would also like to congratulate the outgoing Director of Corporate Services, Mick Jench. I think Mick's impact on this council can't be overstated. Behind the scenes with little fanfare, Mick has deftly pulled the financial levers of council. He's renowned as one of the best financial officers in the local government sector, and I look forward to seeing what Mick and the rest of the board achieve with the South East Leisure Company Board. But moving on, Mayor, I have a question. I was talking with a resident, and this may sort of something tweaked and it makes sense. I think one of the best ways to learn about the one unique original culture we have here in Australia, that being Indigenous culture, is through the expression of art. And my question, without notice to the Director of Community Services, is firstly, how much Indigenous art is Council displaying currently? And secondly, could Council consider incorporating more Indigenous art into its local placemaking artwork displays? Thank you, Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Look, we very proudly display a range of Indigenous art at both the Springvale Community Hub and also the Dandenong Civic Centre, both internally and externally. We've also had a long program of engagement with our early years programs of displaying Indigenous art at our early years facilities to encourage Aboriginal children to attend and participate and feel comfortable in attending our early years services, kindergarten, childcare and so on. In relation to the second part of your question about placemaking, that's something that I can take on notice, because I do believe it's something that would be considered in our RAP program, and it's something that I can talk to Mr Keasley about in terms of a placemaking team and how we consult, how it connects to the RAP, and also how we consult with our arts and culture team to ensure that is happening. So I'm happy to take that second part on notice. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly.
That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also like to thank Mick Jen for all your service for the last 12, 13 years. You did a great job, so I'm looking to see you on the board. So we're still going to see you, so you're not going anywhere soon. Also, I would like to express my thanks to all the volunteers and the SES for the for the support for the storm that's happened the last week. You can see that's along the street, the rubbish kind of all over the place because of the wind. Also, my question just regarding to, I know we're still in strict lockdown at the moment. I spoke with local businesses around my area, especially with the ethnic groups, so like grocery shopping or stores, stuff like that. Right now, they need a QR code, that's compulsory part of our COVID safety plan. Is there any reason or any instruction ways that we can help with all these local businesses, just due to the language barrier, especially they can't access any internet or computer, anything like that. So as a local government, there's any way that we can help them as well to actually provide them all these materials?
Mr Keasley, please.
Madam Mayor, I might even take that on in case of Paul. It's we do have our emergency management response in Scott Walker's area, and I know Councillor Tan Scott responded to you recently with some support about what they could provide to local businesses. So certainly, if there's anyone out there that you feel needs some help with the QR codes, let us know. We can make contact with them and we can help them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was also going to add, thank you, Mick, that I believe the state have given us some additional funding for specific business liaison officers.
Yeah, that's correct.
That I believe Scott is undertaking, and he will have direct, along with our economic development group, he will have a direct, I suppose, involvement in how we get those people out into our businesses to help people with QR codes and other matters. So if there are any particular issues, as Mr. Jench has said, please let us know who those particular businesses are, and we can send officers out from a range of different departments really to give them some assistance with the QR code.
Yeah, I usually do that, but usually it's to do with the language barrier. mainly, most of them doesn't have access to internet as well. So I can say, yeah, you can go to the website, DHHS website, and then download the link or QR code. You have to register, but just for people with lack of technology and with languages, so it's hard to for them to access. Yeah, that will be the main problem in our area because of it's a multicultural. A lot of startup business doesn't really know where to reach for help, so that will be that's why they come to us as a local councillor and local government to help. So it'd be great if we can at least provide further help to them as well at this time.
Thank you,
And
Councillor Tan.
just second question regarding to material aids, because I know that because of lockdown, a lot of people still need help with, especially with food, out of. So how are we going with our material aids group program at the moment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr.
Thank
Fiddler,
you,
sorry,
Councillor.
Mr. Fiddler.
Yeah, our material aid program is still going successfully. We got funds from the state government as well as council funds. We've been distributing those to the 14 agencies on our consortia, the material aid consortia. If anybody needs assistance with material aid, whether that's emergency food or other material aid support, they can get in contact with council, and we'll point them in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Councillor.
And to do with with homelessness, because rough sleeper at the moment in cold winter, I can see in my ward there's about 2 or 3 along Douglas Street, mainly in front of Coles Coles store and along that shopping street. Do we get any more? I mean, what's the number at the moment? Like, there's increase of needs with homelessness? Do you have any figure at the moment through council that needs to support with those people that really need help at the moment?
Mr. Fiddler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. At the moment, with COVID restrictions, Councillor Tan, the state government is providing accommodation for homeless people, normally in motel accommodation. So we're actually seeing a decrease of people off the streets at the moment. Some people do decline assistance though. So our 2 main housing support agencies that reach out to homeless people sleeping rough are constantly out there following up on these types of issues. When people bring the awareness to us or to those agencies, they follow up with the homeless people. But yeah, as I said, at the moment, people are being offered motel accommodation, and the other people are hopefully being engaged and offered support as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
So can we get someone to have a look along in Noble Park ward? So just mainly in front of a Coles store. There's about 2 or 3. Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe those people are already known to the agencies, but we'll follow that up again.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, Madam Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you very much. On Tuesday, sorry? Yeah, Lana, they've all had it. Oh, do you want another question, Councillor Formoso? Yeah, he was first. Councillor Formoso, did you put your hand up for a question?
Yes, I did. My sincerest apologies. There was one that I actually missed that was brought to my attention today, so I do apologise. Is it too late for me to ask that question?
No, you can ask that question.
No? Okay, great. Just a quick one. The owners of the Menzies Road Post Office said that quite a few months ago their post office sign was hit by a truck and knocked it off, and it hasn't yet been replaced. So if we could please have the appropriate officer look into that and let them know when that will be occurring, please.
I've actually put in a merit twice on this myself.
Oh, well, even more reason for us
So
to
it
bring
hasn't
it to
been
everyone's
done.
attention this
I've been
evening,
waiting
Mayor.
for it. Yeah, that's all right. Not a problem. So if we could have someone look into it, please, Mr. Keasley.
Yes, we can certainly look at that, definitely.
I could send you
Thanks
the
very
merit
much.
number tomorrow. Is that okay?
Sorry, what was that last bit?
Sorry? Don't. I'll send that merit number to you tomorrow, Mr. Keasley.
Yes, thank you. That'll be great. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is that it now, Councillor Formoso?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
My
you.
Apologies again.
On the 25th of May, I attended the Community Grants Panel Deliberation meeting, and also on the 26th of May, Community Grants Panel Deliberation meeting. Thursday, the 27th of May, Noble Park Revitalisation Board meeting, and the City of Greater Dandenong Reconciliation Week event at Springvale. Also, I had a media photo with Lee Talamis, MP, Vic Government Community Sports Infrastructure Stimulus Program announcement. On the Monday, the 31st of May, of course, we had a councillor briefing session. Friday, the 4th of June, online meeting with Africa Ozcare, who were looking at building a site at the place where they're at the moment to incorporate meeting rooms, a sporting facility, and the funding is mainly coming from the state and federal government. On the Tuesday, the 8th of June, South East Road Safety Committee meeting via Teams, and tonight, of course, online meeting with all you councillors and officers. As this is the last meeting for Mr. Jentsch, who is retiring from council, on behalf of council, I would like to wish Mr. Jentsch all the best for the future. I'd also like to thank the SES and council staff for their great effort during the tremendous storm last week. Thank you. Mr. Benny, to table the attached response to questions taken on notice at the previous meeting, please.
Thank you, Mayor. There are 16 councillor questions that were taken on notice at the last meeting. All of those have been completed, bar one, and that relates to a question from Councillor Formoso regarding increased participation regarding recycling of bread tags and central collection points. That matter remains incomplete. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 7, urgent business. As there's no urgent business, I declare this meeting closed at 9:12. Thank you very much for your attendance.